right, so we're going to go over some positioning. Like Andy said, we do 3-man mechanics. So what we have a lead, which you guys have heard probably a lot about. They're the official who's going to be ahead of the play. So obviously they're going to lead the play down the court. Then we have center, and they're going to be opposite the lead. And then we have trail. So we're going to have lead and trail on the same side of the court, and then we're going to have the center on the other side. We will do rotations. This is when you're going to, as a crew, you're going to rotate around the court to make sure that everyone has a good view of the competitive matchups. Because if you just stand here flat on your feet and all you see is someone's back and you don't see that open space like Andy was talking about earlier, you're not going to see those push-offs. You're not going to see if someone's maybe sticking out their leg a little bit. So make sure that you guys are getting in the right position. And then you also will switch around during dead ball plays, and we'll go over all of the scenarios. All right, so there's a strong side and the weak side. Strong side is going to be the side that has the 2 officials. The weak side will be the one with the 1 official. It's pretty self-explanatory. Ball side, it's the side the ball's on. Opposite will be the side that the ball is not on. It's going to be opposite of the table. So we'll have a scorer's table. You'll see it when we go downstairs. On court 6, it's on the left-hand side, and on court 5, it's on the right-hand side. So you will be setting up your rotations and your crews, the start of the game, based on where the table is. And we'll go over that in a second. All right, so we have jump ball procedures. We'll go over this in more detail when we're downstairs on the courts, but this is what the jump ball will look like. So we'll have R right here in the middle. He'll be doing the jump ball. We'll have U2, which is opposite of the table, and we'll have U1. The reason they don't have the trail or the lead title yet, because it depends on which way the ball goes. So if the ball goes this way, he's going to turn it into our lead. If the ball goes this way, he's going to turn it into our lead. Okay? All right, so we're going to watch this and we'll talk about it a little bit. All right, so if you watch Andy, he's obviously on our table side. He's checking with the table, making sure they're ready. And then he's going to be the one who chops in the clock, okay? Because he's going to be the only person that person running the clock is going to be looking at. It's this guy's job, as a person who's tossing the ball, to make sure that Andy's ready and that he's checked with the table to make sure they're ready. All right, watch one more video. Like I said, we'll go over more in detail downstairs. You're gonna toss the ball, and then the official that was down here, he moved down to lead. All right. So this is just basic what I said in words. So referee's gonna make sure the table's ready. He's gonna set directions before he tosses the ball. So white this way, blue this way. Make sure everyone knows which basket's theirs. Then you're gonna blow your whistle to initiate the play, and then you're gonna toss it. And then you can set possession arrow. More than likely your scorer's table will do it with before you, but if they haven't set the possession arrow, you need to check that. And you need to make sure the clock is running after the ball's been tipped, okay? So it's your job to check the scoreboard as you're going down the court. U1, you're gonna make sure the table's ready. You're gonna put your hand up to chop the clock, and you're gonna make sure the toss is high enough. We'll go over the specifics of the toss downstairs, but it's your job to make sure that toss is high enough, because if you toss it low and you have someone who's 6'1" against someone who's 5'3", all they gotta do is just knock it like that. That's an unfair advantage. So we wanna try to make it high enough to where both players have to jump. And you wanna make sure it's tipped legally. And then U2, their responsibility, they just gotta make sure everyone else is doing what they're supposed to be doing. Making sure that 2 players aren't jockeying for position before the ball is being tipped. Make sure there's no illegal contact, nothing like that. All right, so we're gonna watch what the refs do when the ball's going in different directions. So the ball gets tipped to the right. This guy's moving down, he's gonna turn into lead. He turns into the center, and the guy who tossed it is just gonna turn into the trail. Which side's the strong side? This side, right? With the 2 officials, good job. All right, ball goes left, obviously they're just gonna do the opposite. This guy right here, the guy who's tossing it, Don't move to the sideline as soon as the ball gets tipped. Make sure all the players clear out, and then you move and follow the play. Because the last thing you want to do is influence the play 1 second into the game. All right, so this is the primary areas of coverage. So at lead, you're going to start about 2 or 3 steps away from the arc. You have as much space backwards as you need before you obviously hit the wall. You don't want to take yourself out of the play, but you might want to take a few steps out so you have a wider vision of the play. You are also the one who's initiating any rotations. So if you're lead right here and you see the ball's on this side and there's a competitive matchup you want to see better on this side, you move to this side of the goal. He's going to move back to trail, he'll move to center. But everyone's moving based on what you're doing, okay? When you're at lead, make sure you are opening up your stance, so don't watch plays like this out of the corner of your eye, because then you have a blind spot all right here. So make sure you open yourself up and you're using your peripherals. What do you think is your main responsibility at lead? What did you say? Okay, fouls. Your main responsibility is going to be this post play right here, right in front of the goal. That's going to be all y'all, all your calls. They might get some of the backside of the post play, but you're going to have the best view. So it's really important to make sure that you're not getting caught watching all the jumble up of the play. Make sure you're backing up, you have the best view possible, okay? At trail, you're going to be at the 28-foot line, so it's just a couple feet above the arc. Your job is going to be watching any illegal screens, any, movement of the hips when they're blocking people. You're going to be watching any hand checks, but you're going to have mostly the backside of all of the plays. What's something else you think the trail might be watching since they're so close to that line? They could be watching backcourt. They're also going to be watching for three-pointers, okay? So this 2/3 of the three-point line is their responsibility, okay? Center, you're going to be helping out lead a little bit in post play. You're going to be setting up right there at the free throw line. You are also going to be watching for illegal screens and all that fouls away from the ball. But you also will have some out of bounds on the baseline, and you could also help with any travels in the post play, okay? One thing you've got to realize is all of these areas, they touch each other, right? And you guys aren't going to know that if the foul happens an inch out of that area, that you're going to have to call that. So these areas right here in the middle, which we'll go over in more detail later, but these are what we call the gray areas. And these are where you're going to have those double whistles that we talked about, that you need to make sure you're communicating with your partners when you're having those fouls. Because, I mean, if there's a foul right there in that area, your lead might have a really good view of it, but technically it's in the center's area. So make sure you are communicating that. If you feel you have the best view when you're coming up with a foul, make sure you are communicating that to your partners. All right, so this is basically all I just said. All right, so what we had a foul right here, which is in our center's area. So he called it over here, but that's a gray area, right? So that technically that is a post play. Your lead could have a good view of it. Sorry, I know I'm in your way. But the center felt like he had the best call. Technically it's in his area, so he calls it from over here. All right, I want you to watch that again. Watch how the crew rotates and moves around to make sure that they have the best view of the play. So see him in the baseline, he's running down. Oh, no, the ball's going to the other side. Don't ever get flat-footed when you're reffing basketball. As soon as you get flat-footed, you're going to get caught watching the wrong play. All right. Same thing. They're all moving around. So that play happened over here, right? Technically, it's not in this guy's area, but Andy's got all this junk in front of him, and so he's got the best open window If it's not in your area and you see an obvious play, give it a split second. Give your partner that chance to call that. If they don't call it, obviously they didn't have a good view. There might have been a player in front of them. So you can make a call out of your area. Give them a chance to make those calls first. So this is one of those hard calls to get when you're in transition. So it's important that when you're in transition, that you're keeping your head on a swivel. So our center got caught over here in transition, and so our lead called something in the center's area. So you make sure you're keeping your head on a swivel even when you're running down court. I know it's hard sometimes because your eyes could be bouncing when you're running. It's just important to know that a foul can happen at any time. So also, you can see he might have had his hand up. So if we had a double whistle on that play, make sure you guys are communicating and you're not just giving up the foul to the other guy because you think he's got more experience. All right, so like I said, this is gray areas. The hardest gray area is going to be right here in the post. Okay? Because you could have the trail coming in with something on the back side that they saw. You might have something from the center because they technically have this half. And then lead, they might feel like they have the best view at all times. So it's really important that you guys communicate in your pregame what you're going to do when you have a double whistle in this area, okay? So these are a couple fouls that happen in our gray areas. Oh, see they rotated around? Watch that one more time. So he starts on this side. He sees there's a better matchup over here, and he follows suit. Okay? You need to make sure you're in the best position possible to make those calls. All right, I don't know if you guys caught that, but watch this ref down here. We'll watch it one more time. So Andy goes up with a 3. He puts his hand up. He sees Andy's got it in his area, so he puts his hand down. He understands that it's not in his area, so it's Andy's job to make that call. As soon as he sees Andy's got it, he puts his hand down.
I'll tell you the other reason I have my hand up on myself. But hopefully it plays back. Can you go up and pause it and ask each other? So bring it back. Pause right now. Go back to about right here. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Not quite there, not quite there. Alright, who's in my primary?
Shooter.
The shooter, that's it. I don't have a competitive matchup. I know my partner has one here, there's a guy there, there's a matchup right there, there's a matchup on the other side. So who am I looking at? One person. I see my partner, because we pre-game this. My partner marks it, I mark it. I said, if I see you go up, I'll go right back down. But we both saw each other and we both went down at the same time. I don't know if you ever picked up on that. I put mine back down. I know it's a 3. If it happens to go in, we'd score. But I know what my partner has in his primary, and I know what I have in my primary, and I have nothing except the shooter. You're right, that's that gray area, but guess what? There ain't nobody in my primary, so it's mine. So just remember that. That's why I took that. That's why I should have taken that one. Because I know everybody else is block extended.
So we had a double whistle. Remember this half of the post is in the center's area technically, but lead might have a good view of it. You both come up with a foul and you're both going 2 shots, more than likely you've got the same thing, okay? So make sure you are communicating that. Because double whistles will happen in those gray areas. All right, so now we're going to talk about inbounding. So remember yesterday I said, depending on where a floor foul happens on the court, it will depend on where you're inbounding the ball, right? So when we inbound, lead only ever has the baseline, okay? So they don't have any sidelines, they don't have anything down the court. Their only responsibility is that baseline, okay? Trail will have his or her sideline, the midline, and they could have any back court calls, okay? They also will have that back line in case somebody decides to really chuck the ball down court. And then C only has their sideline. So we want a better view of that. So lead will only have this baseline right here. C will have only their sideline. Trail's really got anything else. So if they're inbounding on the baseline and they decide to chuck it all the way down here, it's Trail's job to then move down here and officiate that matchup. Okay? So they got a lot of room when there's an inbound. But this is that diagram I'm telling you about. So if there's a foul right here or anywhere in this area, we're going to take the ball out on the sideline that matches up with where the ball was. So if there's a foul right here, we're going to more than likely inbound it from there. It's not an exact science. Obviously, you're not going to go out and say, the foul is about 2 more inches that way. It's not a huge deal as long as you guys get it in the general area that it happened. But just know if it's anywhere in this kind of trapezoid looking thing, anywhere in the post, and then anywhere in this triangle, it's going to go on the baseline. Everywhere else, until you get to the other side, it's going to be on the sidelines. And this is for if it goes out of bounds, if there's a foul on the floor, if there's a violation anywhere on the floor, that's where we're going to be inbounding it. Any questions about inbounding the ball?
Why is it important?
Positioning and assess your plays. I mean, it makes a big difference as to what you're going to, what the team's going to do with it, I guess.
Wouldn't it be a huge advantage for the offense if there's a foul right here and you brought it down to the baseline? Or vice versa, it would be a disadvantage if there's a foul right here and you threw it in right there. So you need to make sure that you're not giving an advantage or a disadvantage to either team. And you see right here, there's no throwing in under the backboard. Anyone know why we don't throw it in under the backboard? Exactly. So you might have that smart guy who winds up to throw it, and as soon as he throws it, hits the backboard and goes back. That's a stupid play. We want to try to avoid stupid plays, so make sure you do not inbound the ball under the basket.
So is that zone, can you inbound it anywhere on that line, or just in that general?
So if it goes out of bounds here, you're just going to bring the ball over here. You're not going to inbound it at all behind the basket. All right, so when you're throwing it in, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to turn around and look at that team box to see if anyone's waiting to sub in. You're going to do this when you're doing throw-ins, when you're doing fouls. Anytime there's a dead ball, you need to make sure you're checking to see if there's anybody waiting to check in. Because what if you don't check for substitutes and then the next play a team gets scored on really bad? They might complain that the reason that they got scored on and they couldn't play defense is because they were tired and they didn't get to substitute. So make sure anytime there's a substitute and it is a dead ball that you are checking for subs. Do you check for subs between, like someone scores a basket, do you check a sub at that point? No, because that's not a dead ball. So make sure we're not letting subs come in between shots. Make sure you're making eye contact with your partners. Don't ever inbound the ball if you have a partner who's not ready. Maybe they're talking to a player, explaining a play. Maybe there's something on the court that they're picking up. Or if it's even the person who's telling the score box about the foul. Make sure that everybody is looking at the play. Everyone has eyes on the court before you start. All right, don't do any unnecessary whistles because we don't want people to think that we're calling extra stuff. We don't want to complicate the play. We want to get the ball inbounds as soon as we can. Here's a big distinction that we want to make sure you guys follow. If you are on the baseline, make sure you're handing the ball to the player. And when you're on the sidelines, make sure you're bouncing it. The reason we have that distinction is because when you're on the baseline, you're not going to be backing up 2 or 3 feet necessarily from the player. You also don't want to dribble it off their feet. You want to give them as much chance to have possession of that ball as they possibly can. Now on the sideline, more than likely, you're going to bounce it and you're going to back up a couple steps. Give them as much room as possible so you can get to your spot. So you see the ball goes out right there, and the ref correctly calls it, they're going to inbound to that spot. They check with their partners. I'm sure he checked over his shoulder to see if there's any subs, and then he was ready to go. See, check with his partners, good to go. So you see our lead, he's making sure he's got that baseline covered. Center's got his sideline, and Trail's making sure that when that ball goes backwards, the first thing he does is he backs up to make sure he's got that play boxed in, okay? Anytime that ball goes backwards on an inbound, especially on the sidelines, you as a trail need to be backing up. So the ball went out under the basket, so he's moving over here, and he's going to inbound down the other side. Never, never, never inbound it under the basket. You got a question? Okay. I'm going to watch that one more time. Goes out of bounds. He checked for subs. He kept his hand up the whole time. You do not put your hand down for subs until this guy right here has ran off the court. And then he's going to point to the guy saying, we're ready to go. He's watching. All right. So no one's ever caught off guard when they're officiating. Make sure you're communicating with your partners. Okay, so the ball stays in the front court when you're inbounding it. So the ball goes out of bounds there. The lead's just going to come over because it went out on the baseline. So the lead's going to come over and get that ball. C's going to move to trail. Trail's going to move to C. And then we just switch. And now this is the strong side. So if it goes out on the baseline, we're not going to have, for some reason, if the ball goes out here, we're not going to have center move and get that ball, trail, move all the way over here, and then the lead move up. We're going to move as little as possible. One thing Andy tells us is you're going to work to be lazy. Try to move as little as possible when you're getting these plays. That doesn't mean that if the ball goes out here, that two people move and they're moving cross court just so this guy doesn't have to move. Do it as efficiently as possible, okay? Goes out on the sideline. Obviously, we're gonna have lead come over because it was really close to the baseline. See, we wanna make sure that we have those two refs on the sideline. So the ball would have gone out over here, lead would have stayed, because we want to have two people as close to the competitive matchup. And when you're inbounding it, the competitive matchup's going to be right there where the ball is. Okay, so we want to try to have two people there. All right, this is what we call a bump and run. That's if the ball was to go out like right here, and the ball's going the opposite direction now. So our trail is now going to move down to lead because we're not going to have this guy run all the way down court and him stay put. He's going to come and take over the inbounding, and he's just going to move down to BC on the other side of the court. That's what it's called, the bump and run. This is just the bump and run opposite. So C is going to become lead. Lead's going to become the new trail, and trail becomes C. All right, free throw administration.
Go back real quick. On these, go back, look it back. The lead, who is now going to become the trail, will always inbound the ball in the backcourt, go on the other way. So the one in blue will always inbound it, regardless of where it goes out of bounds in the backcourt. It's just the easiest way to do it. It's the least amount of running for everyone. Just remember that.
For free throws, okay. So for free throws, we're going to be having different responsibilities. These are the different views for the different refs. Okay, so what are some things that we're watching on free throws? We talked about the lane violations, okay? So we need refs who are watching all of the players here. We need somebody who also watches the shooter, and also we have to make sure we have eyes on these guys back here too, because if they go inside the arc, that's a violation as well. All right? Okay. So here we've got trail. Their responsibilities are these guys across from him. So you're going to have those three players that are across from you, and you're going to have this guy down here at the bottom. Center, you're going to have anyone outside the arc. And a lead.
No, center has two guys opposite than the shooter.
Okay.
Center has yellow.
There you go. Lead, you're making sure that you're inbounding the ball, okay? For foul reporting, like we said, you're going to try to move it as efficiently as possible. So when you're foul reporting, if Matt is he's opposite the table, and I'm at trail, and I'm closest to the table, and he calls a foul, Obviously, we're just going to switch spots so he can announce it to the table. And as soon as he's done announcing the foul to the table, he's just going to turn around and he's in position. Okay? So we're going to move as little as possible. When you're the calling official, you notify your partners of the situation. So when you're moving to the table, you're going to either say 2 shots, 1 shot, spot foul. And you're going to let them know when we're inbounding it. Okay? You don't want to just run to the table and announce your foul and then turn around and tell them what's happening. Because then they're just going to stand there and wait for you. Try to be as efficient as possible. Try not to mess up the pace of the game. Try to get things done as fast as possible. Make sure you report to the foul, and then like I said, you're going to stay table side. The table side official will then just go, like I said, to the spot that they were at. Any questions about foul reporting? We're going to go over that downstairs. We have a station for it, and you'll actually get a chance to report some fouls. Okay? All right. All right, so we'll watch that one more time. He's letting him know he's all good. We got 1 shot. Lead is bouncing it in. Made shot, away we go. We got 1 more shot here. Let's watch this one more time. I want you to watch this guy. As soon as this shooter's getting ready to shoot, he puts his hand up. Why do you think we put our hand up for free throws? What if we're within that 1 minute and we need to worry about when to start the clock? Okay? So if it's a missed basket and somebody goes up and gets a rebound, as soon as they get that rebound, you're chopping the clock in. So at center, or this person right here opposite the table is going to be chopping them in. Okay? Hand up. Ball didn't go in, so it doesn't matter. All right. This is so one thing I would say about this video, make sure you know what you're going to say before you're walking up to the table, so you're not turning around trying to get the number and you're giving the scorekeeper your back. Okay? Because this person in the score box may not have heard what he was saying because he was half turned around when he was announcing the penalty. Make sure you have all of the information before you go up to the box and then announce it loud enough for them to hear it. You'll see when we go downstairs, they got a good maybe 1/3 of an inch of glass in between you and the person in the box. And plus, there's a court on the other side of the gym that's going to be going at the same time. And there's players on your court. There's already a lot going on. So if you whisper it like he did, more than likely, at least 2 or 3 times in the game, your scorekeeper is going to get the foul wrong because you were not loud enough, you were not clear enough with your foul reporting. So you need to make sure, they'll talk about it downstairs, so you have clean, crisp mechanics, you use a loud voice, and that you're looking at them when you're announcing the foul. Also try to be a little bit further back so they have a better field of vision of what you're telling them to do. So this is a good play for right here. You see Andy, he goes all the way around our players. He doesn't go through them. Remember yesterday we said don't go through the players when you're announcing a foul because you don't want that pissed off player to throw an elbow, to push you. You don't want to give them a way to make their situation worse. And then the guy at table side just went back to where Andy's side was, and they just switched spots. Again, you're going to go all the way around. So, you see Andy, the first thing he does, he calls the foul, and then he counts the basket. Counting the basket is probably the most important piece of information that he can do in that 10-second span. Yeah, knowing what the foul is very important too, but knowing to count the basket is really important for our scorekeepers, because like I said yesterday, they already have a lot to keep track of. So if you tell them to count the basket before you even get there, they can then focus completely on what the foul is and who to put the foul on the piece of paper. All right, so foul mechanics. So lead called the foul on this one. He goes over table side, trail goes to where lead was, and they just switch jobs. We're only going to be moving those 2 people. Same thing if center was to call a non-shooting foul. He's going to go over to table side.
Hold up, where's this ball gonna be put in play?
On the baseline.
Center, that's close.
Why?
Says it on there.
Goes inside.
It's right on the paint.
It's right on that elbow, we put it on the baseline.
Okay. Lee's going to go over and they're just going to switch spots. All right, if we got Trail calling a non-shooting foul on the sideline, he's just going to turn around, announce the penalty, and then he's going to inbound it. Yes.
Why did they switch spots here?
On this one?
Yeah, no.
All right, we'll go back.
So on this one, we always say, who are you switching with, right? Who's if this person calls a foul, who are they gonna switch with? Trail. So the C and the Trail actually switch spots here.
This is the table where you would be reporting
But
it.
since the ball goes to the baseline, the lead stays on the baseline, so the lead's just going to walk across. So yeah, there are 3 people moving, crossing each other, but since the ball's gone to the baseline and these 2 switch, the lead's just going to go put the ball in play.
Okay.
So you kind of got to ignore the lead for a second and being like, all right, the Trail's actually going to come here and be center, but if the ball goes there, we want 2 on this side. So now we're layering all of the movements.
So he's just going to report the foul. He's taking that guy's spot. Lead's going to come inbound it, and then Trail's going to come to the other side while he's reporting the foul.
Thank you.
So this one, like I said, we're going to keep it as easy as possible. He's going to announce the foul. He's going to come over and inbound it. These guys don't need to do anything because it's on his sideline. All right, lead calls a non-shooting foul on the baseline. Go over the scores table. He's going to take C's spot. C's going to come inbound it, and he's going to become the new lead. So we're going to move as little as possible. The ball's down here in this area, and he's announcing the foul. This guy doesn't need to do anything. He can stay put. He's completely out of the play. He doesn't need to make things more complicated. All right, C calls a new non-shooting foul on the baseline. So C right here, he calls a non-shooting foul on the baseline. What do you think he does? So he's going to go announce the foul. Lead becomes inbound referee. He's going to come over and become the C because lead's on this side. We always have to have 2 officials on the lead side. So then our C will become Trail. All right, Trail calls the shooting foul. He's going to go over the table, take C's spot. C goes across. And then lead's going to do the foul shots. You guys kind of get what's the picture? All right, we're going to go through a couple more of these. We got lead calling a shooting foul. They're going to go across around the players, take C's spot. He's going to then become the lead referee who's in charge of doing the foul shots, and then he's going to become C. All right, we got a couple more. All right, center, they call the shooting foul. All you're going to do, turn around, announce it, go back. Lead's going to do the foul shots. And then C and Trail will switch shots. If you notice, lead is always going to be on table side. Okay? Why do you think lead needs to be on table side? Remember that guy chopping the clock in earlier? He's going to be center because they have the best view of him. Okay? So you need to make sure as lead, you are always on table side. We got Trail calling a shooting foul. They're just going to turn around, announce it. Everyone keeps their same spots. All right. I'm going to go through till we get. All right, so this one's a good one. So we got lead calling a shooting foul. He's going to come announce it. Trail's going to go over to the other side, take over as lead. C stays put. Again, if you're not involved in the play's on the other side of the court, you don't have any responsibilities for inbounding or assessing foul shots, then you just stay put. Don't make things complicated. All right, so we have a lead calling a foul on Team A table side. So we've got lead here calling a foul on Team A table side. What's lead going to do?
Go report it.
So he's going to go report the foul.
He's going to go down.
Trail becomes, oh, going the other way. Trail then becomes the inbounding official. C will stay as center, and then they'll inbound it, and he'll come down, and he'll continue to be trail.
Go ahead and skip all this. We'll talk about this tomorrow.
All right.
It's a lot to see on video. We'll talk about it. That's just
If you guys ever want to see any of these plays, maybe you're getting ready to ref your first night and you want to see how to rotate, we will have these PowerPoints online. We'll be sending out that link. It is a hidden link. And I'll show you a little bit more of that webpage tomorrow. We're a little bit running low on time. But if you ever want to see any of these PowerPoints or recordings, we are recording ourselves in the back of any of these presentations. Please feel free to go back and review, because I know it's a lot to take in. All right, so rotations. You have to use your peripheral vision when you're doing rotations, because you're not going to sit there and stare at lead and say, okay, they're rotating, now it's my turn to rotate, because you need to be watching the ball. You just need to get used to sensing where your partners are on the court, using your peripheral vision. Luckily, we're the only ones out there wearing stripes, so hopefully it won't be too hard, but you need to be using your peripheral vision at all times. What's another thing you can use to get your partner's attention to let them know that you're rotating? We're not going to use our whistle, if that's what you guys are thinking. Call their name. That's why it's really important to know your partner's name before the game starts. Because all you need to go is, hey, Matt. And he's fixed. It didn't mess up the play, didn't mess up the flow of the game. The players probably didn't even notice because you knew his name, you didn't make a big deal about it. And everything's fixed in a matter of 5 seconds. It's really important to know your partner's names, okay? All right, so we're gonna watch lead initiating rotation. So he sees a better matchup down by the post. Oh, it's over here on the other side. Now what happens?
Trail goes down.
Trail becomes center.
C comes up, here comes trail.
And C goes over. Very good. So we're gonna watch this rotation. He sees something good over here. He sensed it, he moved over, and he's already at C. See how they're never standing still? They're always looking for that competitive matchup. When you're at trail, feel free to come all the way back here if you need to. So you see Brandon, he moves almost all the way down to the mid-court line to make sure he's got the best view, because you want to see that space in between the players. All right, so our lead went over. He sensed it. He moves over to C, and that way Trail can see that. You got something to add, Andy?
So, we talked about areas to cover. Go ahead, I'll tell you in the closet. So, go ahead and play. Pause. Whose primary does this start at? The C's, right? So, why would I stay back here and try to look through here to get a view? The C's gonna be, it's their matchup. So, this one is initiated by the C or facilitated by the C, by the center. So they just simply go up. We've worked long enough together that I know that Brian, who is across the court here, is coming up. And I also know Braden's going across. So I know when Brian starts to come up, he's got that matchup. I've got to shift my focus somewhere else. Because if I'm looking at it and he's looking at it, we've got 4 sets of eyes looking at 2 players. That leaves 8 players for one other person. So if you hit play, Brandon's already gone, I go down, and we set ourselves up. I will then pick up this matchup right here. So, now, go back and pause it. Go back to the very beginning. Pause right away. You see I had a count. I had a count. If I start a count, I stick with that count. So if he starts to move, and I've got a 2 count, I've got to stay with it. But I know I have to go back to center. As soon as my count ends, I give that matchup up and I go. Because I can't be like, count 2, count 3, and then my partner pick up 4 and 5. It doesn't work. I stay with the entire thing because it's a silent count. So I have it here because I have that matchup at first, then Brian comes and picks it up. Once I lose my count, Brian takes over.
What is he counting? Just a quiz from yesterday.
5 seconds.
5 second closely guarded, good. So you see lead initiates it, scoots all the way over, and he was able to see that competitive matchup because he rotated over to this side. If he would have stayed over here on this side of the goal, and we had C right here, all C would have seen is the back side of that play. So because he rotated over, he was able to see the whole thing. Watch the officials. All right, I'll watch it one more time. You want me to pause it somewhere?
Nope, just go ahead. So you see they came over. Hit out the end. Alright, pause. So our former coordinator's up here. That'll be new Danny. That'll be Danny next year. So he recognizes, hey, we have this matchup right here in the corner, and we have this. And his eyes are glued there. So he knows, hey, my partner's going to have a couple matchups. I've got to go. So as you hit play, he's over. Hit pause.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, kind of keep moving. Pause. You gotta keep moving. You gotta.
I'm trying my best, Andy. You know what?
Pause it right now.
Yes.
So you can see there's a screen coming up here. So now he's got this matchup with the screen coming, and Brian will have this matchup down low. Hit play. As this goes to the bucket, it's a pass off pause. You'll see Brian's hand went like this. That is 100% Brian's call at lead. Lee waves it off. He's waving it off and has a charge. So, not a bad call from there. I'd like to see that from the lead though. So he moved to put himself in a good position. Go ahead and back this up. This is one you don't want to do. Back it up to about right here and hit pause.
Woo.
Stop. What do you call? Look how far away he is to that. He's about 30 feet from that play. How bad does that look when you're the official and you're like this way and the play's way down there? He'd have been better off to come down, call that, and send that foul. They all three had a charge on this, by the way. But look what he's looking through. He's looking through a lot of players.
All right, it's better to have 2 C's when you're rotating than 2 trails. Why do you guys think that is? What'd you say?
You get more court vision that way.
Get more court vision? Right. So when you're trail, you're kind of pulling yourself on the back side of the play, and you're almost taking yourself out of the play. Not quite, but you are. So if you have 2 officials who are all the way back, that other half of the front court, your lead's got to get that whole section. So it's better to have 2 C's, especially in our league where you're not having a whole lot of play near the midcourt line. They're all trying to get to the baseline. So it's better to have 2 C's when you're rotating than 2 trails. If you see that you have 2 C's, what's something you need to do?
Signal to your partner.
Signal your partner and let them know that they need to move, okay? And which side should the trail be on? Same as the lead, which is the what? Strong side. Strong side. Well, the side that we have 2 officials is the strong side. Which side is the C side? Weak side. All right, we got that. All right.
We'll talk about this tomorrow. That's
Okay.
about all the time we have up here.
So what we're going to do, everyone pick up your stuff. We will not be coming up here again tonight. We're going to be going down to the MAC gym. Follow Katie and Allie. They'll lead you down there. And we're going to go do some station work.
You go out this door, just go down the steps, and we'll meet you in the MAC gym. Huh? Shoot me an email.